Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Sip on This. I'm Naj.
I'm Andy.
And I'm Huss.
And no Bianca today. So this is a good old boys nerd out. So we're going to be talking everything websites today. We're going to go through our long history with building websites. We're going to tackle it from a marketing perspective. We're going to tackle it from a technical and implementation perspective. We're going to talk about UX and design and just discuss everything web and talk about good websites, bad websites, and see where the conversation flows. What do you reckon?
Sounds good.
All right, go. You start.
Okay.
So let's kick off. Kick off with something for us, Andy.
Inappropriate use of web technology for the job at hand.
Yeah, that's a good one. I like that.
So this is my big bugbear where people build something way over the top than the job it's actually needed for, and then the client is never fully what they need. And they've not listened to the client, and they've just gone, yeah, you need this, you need X, Y, and Z, and they go and build it.
Yeah, look, I think that
purely to profit the business as well.
Yeah,
right?
but sometimes it's buzzwords, right? Like people in agencies, or not in agencies, in companies, they hear these buzzwords. They hear all sorts of different technologies, AI or this Node.js or this and that and headless CMS, and I want my website, and they're not understanding, like, why do you want a website in that particular technology? What is your budget? Like, you haven't sorted through. They've done a little bit of research. They've heard some buzzwords, and they come to you with this sort of idea. It doesn't always work out.
No, I mean, there's a place for the technology that gets used, and absolutely there is. But I think sometimes some of it's so enterprise, and they try and bring it down to mainstream, and it doesn't work. I
mean, the point of technology is to actually better what you're doing and advance you, not bog you down, right? So if you're a small business and you need a good basic website that ranks sort of well, you can do a bit of paid advertising on it. Like, why on earth would someone like that be looking at enterprise technology for a website? But these things happen, and we get that sort of quite a bit. But then look, it's also on the other end as well. How many times have people come to us with really small budgets? Like, we're talking about medium to large size businesses here with really small budgets and simple ideas when they need these sort of complex websites on custom solutions. I mean, it can go the other way too.
That happens a lot, where they don't fully understand what they need. They understand it from a concept, what they want to do, but they don't physically understand what that entails from a technology standpoint. And there's we had one the other day. I need a system where people can log in and book an appointment to get this. Let's use Shopify. And we were like, come again? And they were like, yeah, I've heard of Shopify.
Yeah, I've heard of Shopify.
They undervalue web. They definitely do undervalue web. And there's also cases where they will decide to build a custom website design or whatsoever, and then they want to keep their current hosting, and their current hosting won't work for them because it's not compatible, it's not fast enough, the software isn't up to date.
Is this episode going to be like 3 like really sort of over it guys complaining about all the web crap we have to deal with?
Starts off like that, but we'll see where it goes.
I mean, there's good and bad to it, but I mean, I generally think web gets undervalued, but then I do think...
I think a lot of places, like a lot of those online sort of really cheap web builders, have sort of devalued and commoditized the actual notion of proper web design. And that's really bad in that sort of medium to large sort of business world where those guys should not be devaluing websites, Like, those platforms are built for really small business to get up and running really quickly. They're not built for enterprise business to, somehow like get out of paying for a really good quality website.
No, but then I think that you're a small business starting out, and eventually you want to grow and you want to get somewhere big, but then you get stuck and bogged down in it.
Yeah.
And then when it comes to the marketing piece, if using the likes of Squarespace or Wix or GoDaddy, the online builders they serve a purpose to a degree.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realize that it will only take you so far.
So tell us why. Like, you name those places and they look all right, and you jump on, the designs look pretty good. As a small business owner, you think, I'll pay my $10 a month and I'll get this website, looks all right. So what can't they see that's bad for marketing?
So it's the age-old thing that when I first got into web, it was when you first learn it, You learn about all the semantics and making it all, using everything properly written.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get into agency world and somebody that doesn't understand, well, just make it look like what the client expects. It doesn't matter how.
Yeah.
It almost comes across like that. It looks pretty, it looks great, but behind the scenes there are things that are missing.
Yeah.
And then it's you got to pay extra for that.
Yeah.
Well, but I need that for my business. Or it doesn't quite work as well for, maybe it's an e-commerce business and it doesn't spit out a feed for Google. And they're like, oh, well, we do eBay and Amazon. Oh, but I want to advertise on Google.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we don't do that. And you're, what do you do then? Your business is like, well, I can only do Amazon and eBay. Then you're stuck.
Yeah.
And then depending on how much time you've invested into, if you got ripped off building it, because again, there are snakes out there that aren't honest, and how much time you've been on that and how much your business has grown. You're like, well, now we've got to build an enterprise solution. You're going from a small business to an enterprise solution rather than having that transition in the middle and easing up to it.
Yeah. And what about things like one of my pet hates is like bloated code and things that are unnecessarily large and take so long to load, which is like the opposite of what you need in SEO.
That for me is like bad WordPress.
Yeah, well, that's the difference between going to a marketing agency to build your website compared to like a creative agency who just build websites with the thought of making it look pretty and working just purely on UX rather than also thinking about, speeds and the stuff Google would want to see, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, what's the point, right? Like, if you have this awesome looking website, but it takes 10 seconds to load and people have clicked on your ad, which cost you $10 to have the opportunity to see your website. And then while it's loading, they go, stuff this, next competitor. Like you're just going to burn your money for no reason.
100%. And that's where you get the I say bad, but that's where you get they might be creative focused, and then they're thinking, oh, there's a plugin for that, there's a plugin for that, there's a plugin for that, and then
that's a rabbit hole, right?
You end up with so many plugins, and then.
But even those online builders, they're like, there's a reason why they're really easy to use, and it's because all this stuff is sort of slapped together. There's no optimization of code, there's no minification of stuff. It's gonna look okay, maybe, but it's gonna run like dog shit, really.
But they do minify code and they do optimize.
They market it as they do, definitely.
There's levels, right?
There's nothing
once
you
you
can
start
say.
adding all the custom
as they say in
stuff,
the UFC, there's levels.
Yeah.
yeah.
But that's the thing. You're limited with what you can do on those.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're building from scratch with either custom or WordPress or an enterprise solution, there are avenues you can take to speed things up that you can do that are a bit more advanced. Whereas the builders, you're stuck in the box of no, we don't let you see that, we don't let you do that, we don't. I mean, there's all the WP engine and WordPress stuff kicking off at the moment in the world of web, and that's because
that's
WP
an
engine,
interesting topic. Yeah,
they lock down parts of WordPress for you as a user that you can't do. So, and that's like the builders.
Because WordPress is kind of asking for a bit of royalties from their revenue, right? From WP engine.
Not necessarily royalties, or they want them to offer some hours of work.
Oh, okay.
Back.
Some type of compensation.
Yeah, because they're making a large profit off it.
Yeah.
But
okay, interesting.
Money talks.
Yeah.
But I mean, us as an agency, we've dealt with the good, we've dealt with the bad.
Yeah.
There are some good things that come over.
So a question that I get asked a lot, and the way internally we sort of price websites and things like that. Obviously, our focus is marketing, and we want the websites to look great and function great, but we want them to perform. So we factor all that stuff in terms of building websites. But when I'm sort of talking to some customers, and I'm especially in terms of UX and design, and I'm going through that, and they always ask, "Oh, do we need that?" They don't sort of understand why they need really good UX on their websites. So is that something you want to maybe put to bed right now and just sort of share?
Yeah, well, it's the whole idea is to bring value to the client, right? When you're talking to them about websites, and what you really want to do and have them understand is that they all have these personas and people that come to their website wanting to do something, and there's always a goal to when they're coming in to get there and the objective and whatsoever, right?
Yeah.
So you understanding if that specific thing they're sharing with you is needed basically works down to their personas and will it be needed to, showcase that sort of level of animation or works or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So that personalization is the key that really separates like a really like small business website, even if it is custom design, right? Because a designer is not really thinking about that, right? They're thinking, okay, well, this is my client and they're I don't know, they sell shoes and I'm just going to make a website that...
Yeah, I'm just going to make it look fancy. I'm going to
make
do what they want sort of thing. Right?
Yeah, yeah. But they haven't thought about who's buying these, how old are they, where are they? Are they predominantly on mobile? How do they like to sort of work? And that's the part that a good web or a marketing agency would define at the beginning, right? That leads then into the creative design, that then leads into the actual technical implementation.
And if they're an existing store whatsoever that sells shoes, you can always look at the data and see that. Like,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, not a lot of people
and then moving forward
CRO
after that, you can use stuff like heat mapping, Hotjar, and those sorts of things
for sure.
to basically
get the data,
see what will work for them in terms of what you've already done and improving it moving forward.
Yeah, cool. Are there any? Is there any sort of new or sort of modern or anything that's sort of working well right now in terms of different elements, in terms of like conversions or things, whether it's in the design world or in terms of sort of different platforms or bits and pieces that would be cool to sort of have
straight away with
chat about?
Social proofing, on your landing pages, it's working amazing.
You're
right
finding
now.
that's generating a lot of positive impact.
Most definitely.
Yeah, right. Yeah. What kind of systems have you sort of implemented for social proofing? We're talking like sort of like reviews and sort of things like that. Like
so
plug in
wherever
social
they have
media
their
feeds
reviews,
and things.
as long if they're actually getting Google reviews done, we're bringing over that information on the landing pages, and if they're TikTok videos that they have there out there, we're bringing that over as well into sliders and those sorts of things, and just making them look like the actual TikTok videos and sliders. Yeah, they're working really well to convert. They're getting a lot of traction.
Anything from your end?
From me. Well, like making sure whatever it is you've built with works with Tag Manager, Google Tag Manager.
Oh yeah.
Making sure data's punched into the data layer so it's leveraged.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a must for me. When it came on the scene, it was huge. And from a marketing agency's point of view, if you don't have access to their website, or it is completely custom and there's no way of editing anything, then having something like that on either landing pages or your website, it starts to allow you to track minor and major things.
Yeah.
And it's for me, it's one of the most useful tools that's come out in the last like decade.
Cool.
I've leveraged that on for so many marketing things.
Isn't it funny that we still get so many people come to us with no tracking or poorly implemented tracking that doesn't work, and that's like the start of their journey with it. For them with MMX is the tracking piece.
And a lot of them are big companies as well, right?
They're big companies and they have no idea how they're performing. They can't track anything. I mean, they might have some basic tracking, analytics is sort of in there, but they're not tracking any of the elements. They're not tracking any of the segments.
They're not doing
the conversion tracking isn't up to scratch.
No event tracking, no audiences broken down.
Yeah.
No key events set up anymore. There was a lot of hoo-ha around the time when GA4 came out, when people
that was
sort of
opened their eyes.
Is that because they've just walked into this agency that they've had for a while and they've just left them to run as it is?
I think it's a bit like the web sort of thing. It's kind of an undervalued skill. And I think like we have Andy, right, who does all our tracking. That's like major part of your role is tracking. But I know a lot of agencies they don't really they either don't have like specialized tracking analysts, or they haven't upskilled their actual paid search managers or SEO people to work in tracking, because it's kind of left field. And you almost have to, like Andy comes from a web sort of background, so tracking sort of fits in, right?
So he's that advanced level sort of tracking guy compared to your basic agency guys who just throw in the code and let it track.
Yeah, and we get that. We get that quite a lot.
I think the basic one, like Hustle says, where they might come from an agency that's just web.
Yeah,
and they make your pretty
website.
But even
marketing agencies, they're not tracking properly. Yeah. Well, web definitely, that's a given. If they come from a web or creative agency, they have no tracking. But even like coming from marketing agencies, their tracking isn't great.
No, it's not. You get it a lot of times.
Yeah.
And we've had it with clients that we've come in on like modern front-end frameworks where it's been ignored.
Yeah.
Or it's not been set up properly, where they've been given the flash, you're getting this brand new JavaScript framework. It's all the rage. It's built by Facebook. It's built by Google. And then they just omit the little things where analytics doesn't work on it. And we have to then come in and remedy and fix it and be like, no, this is not working, and why?
I think that a probable issue would be that those projects are run by like web tech people, like not actual people involved in the performance or the marketing aspect of the project. So they want to deliver the project. They want the website to do this. They want it to do that. But they've forgotten about, or maybe not forgotten, but they've undervalued the part of performance and tracking for it.
It's like with us, we've got us that's looking from a creative and UX point and driving down the pathway to whatever the conversion metric is or whatever it is they're looking to do, and then me from the technical standpoint and adding the tracking in, and you looking at it from a marketing point of view. So you've got all those things that mesh together all under the one roof, and we're all looking at it from multiple members of the team. Yeah. Whereas I think there are agencies that just might have two pieces of that and not the third piece of the puzzle. And that's where it just gets left or missed.
I think the synergy is good. I think, look, from a marketing perspective, especially SEO perspective, the amount of times that I've been asked to have a look at a web relaunch where rankings have tanked, and sometimes it's just the real basic stuff. They haven't done their 301 redirects. They haven't taken the 1,000 pages that used to rank in Google and said, this is where the 1,000 pages now live. Something as simple as that, let alone all the other complex tags and things that you can sort of look into. So I think it starts with UX and creative, and then obviously it goes into the implementation. But overall, the whole thing has to have a marketing / performance sort of almost like an umbrella sort of guiding that, because at the end of the day, it has to perform. And you need the UX and you need the technical side to build it, but it has to perform.
Talking about the SEO side of things, I think that gets overlooked when launching a new site or migrating a site all the time.
All the time.
Every time. Like 301 redirects, because they don't necessarily look at new URL structures and things like that. They don't copy across meta and title tags.
That's another one. Platforms.
Well. Even if the redirects are done, like then stuffing up their URL structure, like in the SEO world, internal link building is huge. Just your own internal link building, right? So having the right links from the right sort of parent pages to sub pages, that passes juice and authority that tells Google, this page is important, but this is more important, or this is less important. And if you haven't figured that out, if you're just randomly linking to stuff, you throw out your whole balance. So that's a huge thing. And then again, where you mentioned bringing the tags in, that happens all the time. People lose access to their remarketing pixels and things like that because nothing's been brought back in.
They only look at it looks pretty.
Yeah.
But is it functional?
Yeah. That sucks.
And that's why working in a team of people that have a like mindset, or they all have a similar touch point. Huss knows web, and he understands it, so he can apply that from a UX and design perspective. That might not necessarily be the case somewhere else.
Yeah,
where they've got a pure designer that I'm going to do this website in InDesign. You're like, what? Why? And they don't think about anything.
That's what we did at uni, and that's what I'm doing here.
Using the new platforms, your Webflow, your Frame, and they're getting really creative, and they're forgetting about the best practices for UX and Google too.
Yeah, it's like everything. You got to serve the client, right? If you're serving your own, say, creative ego, and you think this is my desire. I'm gonna win an award with this. You know what I mean? Like, that's cool, but you're forgetting about the client. The client is paying you to build something that's going to better their business and improve their performance. Not paying you so you can go and submit an award and have personal sort of satisfaction. It's cool if you could do that. If you could achieve both, that would be the best. But I think maybe a lot of the lines are sort of blurred in that instance as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, there are beautiful websites out there that have everything. Like Apple's one of the ones that everybody comes to mind with. The way it looks, the way it moves, the way it works. And their customers, it aligns with them and it works. And you'll get people like, I want a website like that.
Yeah.
a couple of $1 million later, thank you. And they don't understand how much UX,
how much thought went behind
wireframing has gone into that before it's even before anybody has opened up bloody Visual
and how
Studio
long
Code or
things
anything.
take.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of the times we're quoting and I get asked, I'm like, look, this is a 3-month project. They go, wow, 3 months to build the website. I'm like, look,
it's pretty standard now.
Yeah, it maybe sounds like a long time if you say 3 months to build a website, but then I explain it. I'm like, well, we have to have a workshop. We need to work out your objectives. We need to audit what you have now. We need to audit your tracking, audit your performance. Then Huss needs to start thinking about UX. We need to wireframe. We need to create the designs. You need to approve it. You need a round for changes. Then we need to design the templates. They need to be approved. They need a round of changes. Then it goes to Andy's team to start the development. And that's a whole process. And then we need to put the content in. We need to think about SEO. We need to plug it in and like, okay, I get it. It takes a long time, right?
Yeah, it's all context, isn't it? I mean, how long does it take to build a house?
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody told you 3 weeks, you'd be like, no chance. It's gonna. It's built shonky.
But again, it comes from the modern age of everything is quick, everything is fast. You can go to data, you can pay $3, you can get a website overnight. You know.
Yeah, but once you explain that to the clients, they're really shocked as to how much work is involved.
The initial reality is not that because no one is telling them that, you know. They're just seeing the GoDaddy ads.
It's weird that like the web has been around as long as it is, but it's still, there are so many people that just have no understanding.
Yeah.
It's just like, oh.
Well, I had someone the other day, we were discussing our website and was saying, oh, do I get a template or do I? I'm like, no, it's a custom designed website. They're like, oh, it's fully custom. I'm like, yeah, it's custom. And they're like, okay, so how do you build the CMS? I'm like, well, no, we'll build it on WordPress. And they're like, oh, it's on WordPress. It's not custom. I was like, what are you talking about? Like I explained everything. We're going to design it. We're going to build the templates. You're going to put it in. We're going to do everything. And WordPress is your CMS. They're like, right. I just thought WordPress, like you just go get a theme and you just get a website and it's dodgy. I'm like, so look, that was his perception, right? That's what he thought. Someone actually had quoted him to build a custom website where they built a custom CMS. This is a small business. No need for a custom built CMS. But his reality was like, WordPress is dodgy because of all these themes and the plugins. He's like, how many plugins are you going to use? Like probably none. Like, you know, we'll build everything. And but that was his reality. He thought it was a really shady solution.
And that's because the last guy would have sold that to him, right?
Yeah,
Where we vet the plugins.
But imagine how many people are out there like that.
Yeah.
I think we tailor the solution to the client rather than just, we don't cookie cutter everybody and slap them into the same thing.
And we don't pick any plugin to use. We vet the plugins. Yeah. We ensure they're going to work well.
They're going to work, that they're maintainable.
And most of the time, it's very minimal on the plugin side anyway, right? It's just if needed.
From our perspective. But the amount of sites we inherit that have so many plugins and then they're not kept up to date, that's a bad one.
Well, that's a whole other thing, right? Web maintenance.
Even if it's a custom build.
Yeah.
It still needs to be maintained and people kind of forget it. They let it go by the wayside.
Technology is always changing. It needs to be updated.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we see it all the time when servers get updated and, you know, they're on really old versions of software and, you know, PHP's moving on and they're stuck and they haven't done any updates and
no ability to have Node on there or anything like that, or whether it's an AWS server or does it need to be on an AWS server if it is? Yeah. Is there a local solution that will work just as well? I think a lot of buzzwords come into it, and I think sometimes there's a lot of smoke and mirrors thrown by people. I think that instead of just being straight up and honest, people don't understand it unless they're in it.
They don't get it. Yeah,
the same with UX. I don't understand design. It's just I look at the stuff that he churns out, and I'm like, wow. I'm like, I couldn't do that in a month of Sundays.
It's a whole other way. He thinks differently.
Yeah, he definitely thinks differently.
Yeah, he thinks
it's different. And but that's it.
Kind of bullying there.
HR. Yeah. But that's where the synergy works. There's also a lot of trust here between everybody, that they all know that the person knows what they're doing and what they're talking about. And one of the best things about this agency is everybody's open to feedback.
Yeah.
Okay, he carries a big stick around with him, and the feedback goes one
Like
way.
literally
a big stick.
Yeah.
Like,
There's no filter there.
There's no filter. No. So, but if Huss says, no, that's crap, and I'll look at it and I'm like, do you know what? You're right.
Yeah, it's crap.
It's crap.
Yeah.
And I'll have to relook at it, or I'll fix it. Or there are things that we'll go through a build and we'll get something done. And I'll be like, yeah, I'm happy with this. I'll give it to him, and he'll be like, and it'll come back, and I'll relook at what his notes are, and I'm like, you're right. My eye on that wasn't as sharp as it should have been, but it's not like, oh, you're criticizing my work. It's no, you're right. This is bettering the client and the outcome that we're going to get.
Yeah.
So there's no ego. There's no, we're all working towards the end goal, and
I think that's where a lot of the problem lies with different solutions, is when they're not serving the customer. Everyone's serving themselves. Everyone's thinking their own design. The SEO team's thinking, I don't want any graphics. I just want a white page with 10,000 words on it. The technical people, they want to build everything. What do you want to build everything on?
React. Next.js. Yeah. All the JavaScript front-end frameworks where it's not necessary.
Yeah.
You don't want to use Tailwind?
So
I like Tailwind. I do like Tailwind, or Bootstrap, but they make life easier.
Yeah.
They're fine. But again, is it needed? I like the fact that it's level-headed to the point of where just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point.
No, I think that's a view that anybody in web should take for their clients is, yeah, okay, you can build it in a modern front-end framework and you can charge them 60 grand for an app or this, but do you need to? Do they need all that? And are you just crapping on your client just for your own financial benefit rather than doing them the actual service that they need? It gives everybody a bad name.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think if you put the client first, you can't go wrong, really.
No.
Yeah.
Well, you're always going to get some clients that are just a bit
special.
A bit special, or a bit hard work, or they just don't understand it.
Yeah.
Definitely makes it easier when they listen, but
yeah.
You
and I think like maybe like good project management systems would help in that regard. We discussed it in other sort of podcasts that we've done, but setting expectations and timelines and having sort of like clear objectives, clear dates. This is what we need of you at this time. Your approval process is 2 days, 4 days, not 4 weeks, I think they're all really important things to make sure that the project sort of runs smoothly and on time.
Getting them to understand that if you take a week for something that we need 4 days for,
that's going to push a week out.
That's going to push a week out. And that never, that goes down like a lead balloon every time. Every time. Doesn't matter how many times you tell them, like, oh, you said you're delivering this many months and it's been 6. And you're like, you didn't sign off for design for 4 weeks. Like, let's push everything back by a month. And then you wanted to change everything.
I get it.
That's clients. But I suppose at least if you can get on the same page with them and you're at least building something that isn't going to blow their budget out and isn't unnecessary, then the outcome will be there.
Anything else to add, guys? I think that was a good little introduction to the world of web, and maybe in future episodes we take it a bit further. We go into specific details, things like that. Question from our mighty video crew.
Where does like platforms like Squarespace or Wix, or where do they sit?
Is there a bin in the room? They sit there.
No, look, they're not. We made it sound really bad. Yeah, we definitely made it sound really bad. But for the smaller guys who are just starting off and need that smaller websites to get started with their business or whatsoever, they work quite well.
They work quite well for that. You are going to get a nice, modern-looking website. But our bugbears with systems like that is large companies, when I say large, even small, medium companies who shouldn't be looking at those platforms because they do have bloated code. They do have like really poor SEO implementation and things like that. A lot of limitations. Choose that route to, this is where I'm going to save my money. I'm going to go build my site on Squarespace. So it's making the wrong decision. If you're a startup company and you need a quick website, there's an awesome looking theme on Squarespace, awesome, go and do it. But it's
It's a stepping stone.
It's a stepping stone, but if you're at that level where you need a good performing website, you're in a competitive niche, you need to rank quite well, your website needs to be, the files need to be compressed, they need to be optimized, you need to have really good SEO. Focused. You shouldn't be going and trying to use Squarespace for something like that. And we get that a lot.
And I think people think it's the end solution, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's the first step into the world of web, and you're like, it will help you, it will get you out there, but it's going to have major limitations when you want to grow. If it's a personal portfolio, yeah, it's fine, brilliant.
Good for a showcase.
Yeah, great for a showcase.
Yeah, but if you think about marketing,
and you're thinking about growing your business,
exactly.
It's the same as if it's e-commerce, you drive everybody towards Shopify every day of the week. You just would, because it's purpose built for that. Yeah, there are hidden costs and people don't realize what it costs, but it's got a great purpose. You wouldn't drive them. Squarespace can have an e-commerce store, so can Wix, but they're woeful.
Yeah.
If you got one product, go Squarespace, go to Wix. If you're planning to grow and you've got hundreds of products, you genuinely need to sit down and have a business plan and really think about what you're doing and engage with either a marketing agency or a web agency or a combination of agencies if you've got the money to get heads together to actually put a business plan out there. And
especially if you have things like complex shipping rules, like really complex stuff you need to do on a website, all those platforms, it just totally wouldn't work.
I mean, the WordPress, at least it's open source and you can extend it as far as the mind can go, which is great. Okay, it does open things up for weaknesses and things like that, but and then you've got your front-end frameworks where you can build high enterprise websites, your Angulars, your React, your Next.js. And those are also great. They serve a purpose with your full enterprise solution. Yeah, awesome. It's just, you've got to get the right minds together that will help you as a business pick the right solution. I just think the GoDaddies and that are shoved down people's throats.
And then there's also that other level, the enterprise CMSs, your Drupal, etc.
Magentos.
Absolutely.
God, Magento. Drupal. People get normal websites built with Drupal.
Yeah.
And it tends to be for government stuff.
Yeah, we've done some large government websites on Drupal, this sort of government approved sort of CMS. But we've also had some clients, like just a local sort of business, who had their websites built on the same platform. And terrible to use, slow and clunky and unextendable and really, really bad. And that's a good indication of choosing the wrong technology. Like, I'm not sure how they ended up there, but it was
definitely. And that was expensive for the client as well.
Very expensive. Yeah.
And purely to
have a standard basic website.
Profit the agency that was building it.
And that's the issue is the agency looking for profit. Are they looking to make a boatload of cash and charge you a boatload of money for something you do not need?
All right, guys, thank you for joining us for this website nerd out session. And stay tuned for another one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.